So today, I'm going to show how we do a refacing on a worn hammer. A lot of people use sandpaper, and the sandpaper can corrupt the nose of the hammer and break down the fibres in the nose of the hammer, and then over a much shorter period of time the hammer won't last as long because you're breaking down the tissues in the main fibre of the nose of the hammer there, with depending on what kind of, because you would have to use a coarse sandpaper to get rid of those grooves in there, which is made by the strings. So you'd have to use a coarse paper, and the coarse paper would break down the fibres, and then the hammer would wear far faster because you're breaking down the fibres. So the best way to reface, what we call refacing hammers, is to shave off around the nose and round like that. It takes quite a lot of practice, and you really don't want to be, you want to be practicing on some old hammers for a throwaway set, because it does take quite a bit of practice to get there, because you've got to get the shape of the hammer around with a, because here we've got a worn hammer, so you've got there a flatness created by the strings over the years. This is 50 years wear on there, so you've got a flatness there. I think you can just about see that, and if we compare what I've just done, then you can see there we've got a nose, a point, not a flatness on the peak of the hammer there. So I'm just going to hold the camera here and I'll show you how we get this done, if I can get the camera at the right angle. Yeah, I think that'll do. Yep. So these are grand hammers, and you really do need a sharp blade, and you've got to follow the nose around. I've taken it easy there so I can still see some grooves. And we're just taking off a real shaving, and I can still see we've got grooves. I can also feel it with my fingers. And I think we're almost there. Yeah, we've got that. So a little side note on why you would reface hammers instead of, I mean, you can completely replace the hammer head. Well, that's quite expensive, and we tend to do it on Premier models. If it's not a Premier model, then we tend to reface them. And you can see in there, just on the nose of the hammer, there's a groove, and that's made by the strings. And why that's significant is because as that compression happens in the nose of the hammers, it happens unevenly across the whole piano, because people tend to play in the same keys, their favourite keys or their favourite pieces, and you will end up with an uneven amount of compression in all the hammers, the 88 notes across the keyboard, because you're playing favourite keys. So they're all going to have a slightly different compression over a course of 20, 30 years. And so that's when you have to reface. So when we reface, we take that down below that groove. So then you're representing a nice clean compression part of the felt to the string. So you should have a nice even tone. And it basically is a key thing to do when you've got an uneven tone in the piano. You can voice a piano, but it's a lot easier if you've got a uniformed across the board nose of hammers, because then the voicing just becomes a lot easier and a lot less time consuming to do. So all in all, refacing is definitely the way to go the vast majority of the time. Okay. So here I've done half the set. So here's half and half. We've gone along and done this. You can see how superficially the hammers have done a cleaner and newer looking as well. You can, if I can focus here, you can just see the difference there. Not quite picking it up on the camera, but trying to. Camera's not quite good at focusing. But yeah, so we've done half and half. And the reason we do this is because it means I can space the hammers, and I haven't got that job to do when I put the action back in. Because if I didn't do half and half, then I'd have to slide the piano in and out of the piano, slide the action in and out of the piano to get the strings so they're striking in the right position, especially for the half blow, because the half blow pushes the whole action this way. And so you've got to get the strings in the right place on the hammer, and I'd have to move all the hammers individually over to match them up to the strings, and it's quite time consuming. So this saves a lot of time by doing half the action, and then when I screw them on, space them with the already original hammers on there. It looks like a new hammer set to the casual eye, and it will make a big difference in the tone as well, really even. So I thought I'd put the stereo mic on just so we can hear the difference in the ones I've done and the ones I haven't refaced. And I'm going to play it quietly so you can hear. What you should be hearing is the attack, the first part of the note hitting the string. So on the worn hammers, there's less attack. It's slightly more muffled. More clarity.